Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to another one of our NHAT Connect webinars. So today we are focusing again on process, but this time we're looking at district level processes for assistive technology consideration. So providing quality, effective AT services with QIAT, and QIAT is pronounced quiet. Mike, I'll let you take this one if folks want the slides.
Very good. Very good. Hello, everybody. So as we go forward, you might see some interesting things on the slides that you might want copies of for yourself. We'd say there's the link to the slides that can get you those. Some of the pictures in our slides will link out to forms and some other things. You might want those forms after we're done. So you can use, if you're watching this with your phone, you could scan the QR code. Or if you're at your computer, you can pause us, open up another window, and put in that shortened bit.ly, and it will bring you to this slide presentation where you can download everything.
Hey there. So who are we? So we are the NHAT Connect team. We've had the privilege of working with folks with educational teams in New Hampshire for a few years now. So I am Jennifer Edge-Savage. My background, I'm actually an occupational therapist and an assistive technology specialist, an educational technology consultant, and AAC consultant.
Hi, everybody. I'm
And
Mike
Mike, it's your
Marotta.
turn.
Oh, sorry, Jen. I don't mean to talk over you. I'm Mike Marotta. I am also an AT specialist. Or if you make up your own titles, try it. Try it sometime. It's fun. Make up your own titles. I'm an inclusive technology evangelist, screaming from the rooftops about the power of this technology to support our students. We are very excited to be here with you today, sharing a little bit about this. This part of this AT conversation is a bit of a passion for Jen and I because it's so important. And it doesn't always find itself at the forefront of conversations with teams. And we'll get into that a little bit. But with the teams that we work with through our project through New Hampshire, which is called NHAT Connect, we are working with local teams to build capacity. Talk about what effective services look like in order to meet your students' needs, all those diverse needs of all the students that we're working with. And Jen and I are the project managers, coordinators of that project, and we are doing these alongside of it. So this is, imagine that is our direct service with teams, and then we do these things for the community to build some awareness as well. So it's always fun to have this conversation with people about AT service. Jen, did I miss anything? Or did
I
I
would say
give it
it's
just enough?
just enough. I'd say certainly go visit our NHT Connect website for lots of resources, upcoming events, a lot of the pre-recorded webinars that we have done over the years, and lots of support, whether you're a student, a teacher, a parent, or an administrator. There's lots of resources there for you.
What are we talking about today? Well, we're fitting ourselves nicely into one of the Department of Ed's focus areas. Our focus area is assistive technology. That's where we'll be spending our time today. You see some of the other ones as well, and how all of these kind of focus areas come together to provide a well-rounded service for the students across New Hampshire. We're very excited to be part of this group that is working
Yeah, and
to
then while
address
we
all these focus areas.
Yeah, and our focus is assistive technology, but certainly that reaches out to accessible educational materials and the AT you might need to access them. Accessibility is the core of everything we do. And we are constantly talking about this larger universal design for learning and how assistive technology fits. And then we get to connect folks with our colleagues who support students who are deaf and hard of hearing, or students with blindness or who are blind or visually impaired, to support them as well.
So let's dig into service talk, our thing that we love to talk about. Let's talk that. Let's give us some foundation first. If you have not joined us for a previous webinar, and this might be a good opportunity to set a foundation for you of what it is we're talking about. And we are talking about the idea of assistive technology, both devices, which sometimes that seems to be the easier part for people to wrap their heads around, the idea of things, stuff, technology, that makes sense for people, the devices themselves. So when you look at this definition, this is the definition from IDEA, which talks about an AT device can be anything, any item, piece of equipment, or product system. We tried to chunk the definition so you can kind of appreciate the pieces of it here. So it's anything whether you buy it off the shelf, modify it, or customize it. So it's any device that you do anything to that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of an individual with a disability. Gives us a nice sense of AT could be anything, as long as it's providing that support for that individual to help them achieve what it is they're looking to achieve. That's the definition most people are comfortable with. Jen, what about service?
Oh, I was going to add a little more about devices if that's okay first. All right.
Go ahead, yeah.
The devices, so an AT device is going to be very much specific for an individual.
Mhm.
It could be really low tech, like a pencil grip or a slant board, or it could be super high tech, I don't know, like a brain computer interface device for communication or something, and everything in between. Assistive technology covers a wide range, but it's for an individual. It's something that they specifically need. Make sense? And that could be something that's built in even, but if they're required to, if they need to use it in order to access the curriculum, it's assistive technology for them. Our glasses, there's lots of glasses here. Our glasses are would be considered personal. This is our assistive technology is personal to us. And then services. Services are a thing we don't always think about, but we need services to support the selection of the technology, to actually get it, to maintain it, and perhaps support the AT user, the caregivers around them, the educational professionals around that user to make sure that it can be implemented. Assess that efficacy of the implementation, reevaluate if needed, if performance is not where we'd like it to be. So it's kind of an ongoing process, this whole AT process for folks who need assistive technology. And the technology devices are always changing. So we're always going to need those services to support our folks.
As we like to point out, devices without services might be kind of destined to not be as successful.
I
The two
think we
pieces
call
have to
that
work hand in hand.
Yeah, we sometimes call that shelf technology if it's left on a shelf,
Yes.
right?
We can unfortunately share stories about that if we had to. We're not going to. We're going to keep it positive right
All
now, but we
positive.
could. We could. And that's because the individuals, the team's process um, did not meet up with what the need was for that individual. It's like Jen said, we need these both working in order to be successful. Sometimes people are saying they have successfully implemented AT just by getting it. And they're looking at that as kind of a finish line. And I would think you're about halfway there at best when you
Yeah,
get something.
agreed.
It's how you use it, how it gets integrated into the environments, and how that person starts to use it to be the accommodation that it is. That's when you see that real, true implementation.
Agreed.
So today, here we are. You're in a webinar where we're not going to talk about any tech. So hold on. We're going to talk all service, all process. Uh,
It's
if you
not about
want
the stuff
tech,
today.
if you want tech, scroll down this page a little bit where you'll find this recording when the recording is done. There's all kinds of webinars about tech there too. But this is about how we do it. How? What does it look like? How do we make sure that our teams are equipped with technology, but with skills to in order to meet the technology needs?
Mike, I wish there was some sort of guidance in how to
Jen,
do
what could there be? Oh,
it.
wow, look at
We need
this.
the support. I wish somebody had made this up to support us. And amazingly, we have that. We have some incredible resources developed with great research and application over decades of support through quiet.org and the Quiet Leadership Team and all of the professionals who have been supporting and reevaluating this process.
You just,
So, mhm,
we could probably talk about this for a very long time, but we will,
for sure.
where we have a smaller time frame today to kind of pique your interest about this, but we want to walk you through some of the ideas here of the quality indicators. Because if you notice what's on the slide here, these are the areas that this group has developed indicators for. And so even before we dive into them, let's take one short little step back. And what are we talking about here? It's not a checklist, but instead a list of best practices that your team should be doing in each of these areas. And if we look at the 8 areas, for right now, let's just stay in the top 5 for a second. If you look at those top 5, that moves you and your team through the entirety of considering AT to implementing AT. Consideration of AT, assessment of AT, AT in the IEP, AT implementation, and then finally evaluation of effectiveness of AT. That is the continuum there when we start to think about it. And each of those areas breaks down into, I guess I'll call it, if that was the entirety of the process for us to think about AT, each of those breaks down into smaller pieces that allow us to dig into consideration, assessment, look at what needs to be put in place. It gives you an opportunity to reflect on your service a little. What do we do well? What do we need more work in? What do we need more development in? And it gives you a sense of where you are in this process.
Yeah, so for each of these each of these key indicator areas for assistive technology makes sense, should look familiar. How do we even know if they need it? How do we assess if something would work and things to try? How do we document in the IEP? What are some ideas to help make sure that it's implemented properly? How do we know if it's working? And then what happens, ATN transition, what happens if they change classrooms or grades or schools or districts or states? There has to be a plan for transition, intra and inter school. Um, and in order for this to happen, there needs to be administrative support from the top down for this AT process. There needs to be AT professional development so that there's understanding awareness from bottom up for how to use and implement this assistive technology. So all these pieces are needed, and we step back. This makes sense. In order to do this is a process. When we are missing pieces of this, things are probably inevitably not going to work. Something's going to fail or fall through the cracks. Right.
Sure.
So QIAT provides, these are the big the indicator areas within each of these areas. And we'll dive in a little bit. There's some specific ideas and guidance of really best practices and the range of practices to do it. And for things to think about. Some you've thought of already, and some you may have not thought of that might be helpful for you to consider. Once again, though, these are guidelines. It's not a checklist, it's not the rule. It's trying to help us meet what is required for us under IDEA, which is to consider this assistive technology for every student on an IEP.
So what we have on this slide is a link to remind us to point this out to you, is that in this summary worksheet, if you get the slides, you can click on this. It will open up a PDF that will bring you to all of those worksheet summaries. So now you have the ability to look at the indicators for each area. And typically each indicator area, usually 7 or 8
Yeah.
kind of best practices statements, usually 7 or 8. And you get an idea of what it is they're looking for and how this is meant to guide your process. It is the form that we're sharing with you on that slide is a self-evaluation form. What does this look like in your school? Rate yourself from 1 to 5. Now, sometimes we get people who say, I'd like to be a 0. No one's a 0. Everybody's doing something.
Mhm.
But where are you in this process? And you look at some of these indicator ideas, these are great examples of reflective questions you should start thinking about. How do we, as a team, consider assistive devices and services for all students with disabilities, regardless of the type or severity of that disability? How do we do? And we get this rating. So this is the rating scale you could use. One of the things we use this for quite a bit is to ask the teams to poll their colleagues.
This is
Jen, what do
a
you think? How's that go?
This is a favorite
It
activity that
is.
we've been doing for years with our university students, with our assistive technology teams in New Hampshire and other groups that we work with. We require folks to do a client on your district. Like hide behind this assignment, start asking questions, start polling folks because the quiet doesn't really happen with isn't assessed by one person because that one person doesn't have a view of what's happening in the classroom, how different teachers are supporting, what's a special ed director's opinion versus a principal versus a superintendent. Like we want to really pull and gather this information and then share and collaboratively discuss this. This is never designed to be punitive. It's designed to analyze and for us, and it's designed to hopefully inspire growth and improvement and identifying areas of strength and areas of need and creating action steps to support folks in those next steps, if that makes sense.
I think it's a really good point, Jen. That idea of this is not just to point out areas of need, but also to celebrate areas of strength. Like there may be parts of this that you and your team do very, very well. That's great. Now you see where that fits in the bigger overall picture. And then you can decide how that you as a team attack some of these other areas to bring them up as well.
Mhm.
Because none of these indicators live in a vacuum, they all live interconnected.
They are all interconnected, and you'll find like sometimes shifting one thing under one of the areas will shift other things and trying to decide where what makes the most sense to devote that attention. And if you'll notice, so they have each of these indicators in this rating scale. Well, how do you know where to put yourself on the rating scale? What is a best practice versus a emerging practice
Mhm.
for assistive technology? So guess what? These are also already created and provided for us through QIAT. So if we take a look at our next slide, you'll see here's an example for each one of those is what it's called a quiet matrix. These files are also available for free to download through quiet.org, or you can look, what does that, look, what does a promising practice look like for assistive technology consideration? So this is good. It's using your favorite word in here, Mike. So five is a promising practice, and one would be unacceptable. If AT is not considered for all of your students with disabilities, that's unacceptable. It's not within the law, and it's not the right thing to do for our students to include them, right? And then we have all the way up to AT is considered for all students with disabilities, and the considerations is consistently, Mike's favorite word,
There it is, my
based on the
favorite
unique
word.
educational needs of the student. Like
I
this is
think
where we want to get to. So if you're not sure where you are or where you should be, dig a little deeper in that next level are these matrices that can support us.
and the reason that I am so wrapped up in that word consistently uh, is that there can be pockets of success in our schools. We see
Mhm.
this frequently. Schools that do a great job serving the needs of a certain um, area of folk of need for students. So a certain disability, a certain area of need, whatever it might be, they do that very well. But then someone who lives a little outside that area of need does not get the same services. Um, and so, if we were to poll one person versus another, we might have numbers that are completely skewed at that point. We might have a five and a two. And it's like, how do you get a five and a two? And you get that because your services are not consistently delivered across your district.
I think that's a good way to look at it because you might have certain populations, and every district's different. Why this is a self evaluation of your district and what makes sense for you. You might have certain populations that, oh, we're always really good with this, but maybe not so good with another population. Or maybe this classroom or program does it, but this other program across the town with similar support, similar kids is very different. So this, I'll start really assessing what is the goal for everyone? What is a district level expectation for everyone? And this can help get you, this can help guide you. And at least I'll have help you set goals, 1, 2, 3, 5 year goals where you'd like to be and how you and start thinking about how you're going to get there.
If you can't tell, we love this stuff. Love it.
Great.
It is great. It's excellent.
And anytime we're going along and we're feeling, even as we're deep into it, we're feeling like, ah, something's not up. Go back to the quiet matrices and look about like, okay, here's something we haven't thought about. Let's deepen our understanding and use of this tool to support us.
Yeah. And I think it's important in this slide. This is a reminder. If you weren't with us previously, we did a webinar earlier about the SET framework, which is a tool that we can use to look to effectively consider AT for a student.
Single
So we
student.
have these two pieces here: SET, which is individual student focused, and QIAT, which is what do we do as a district. And now to have these things working in concert, suddenly you're becoming an incredibly efficient, effective team to deliver services to your students. None of this necessarily makes you more knowledgeable about the tech. Don't worry about that too much, because that will figure itself out. These processes will help you deliver the services that your students need. I was watching Jen to see if she was going to say anything.
Yep. And
No.
what's for the next slide? So there's some specific guidance for New Hampshire. So, gosh, a few years back, Department of Education did a 2-year project, right, with the Quiet
Mm,
Leadership Team. um, and multiple districts as representatives, as clinical representatives, and administrative representatives, education representatives, to really pull together and build from the original Quiet Handbook, the Blue Book that has existed, and then to create something that's a little more geared toward with more specific New Hampshire resources, taking the same indicators, some of the same supports that were in the Edge book, but making sure that they brought through teams through understanding this process and pulled it together in what we call the Big Purple Book. That is the New Hampshire Assistive Technology Handbook, which is really focused on this quiet process and those 8 areas um, of assistive technology indicators. So this is
yeah.
available.
Yes, yes. This is available. You can get this from our website. You could scan this code here. It will bring you to the form to complete it, and then you can download the PDF. You can get that from our website as well. Uh, it's out there and it's available for you. Our suggestion is get this, share it with your team members, start a conversation about this.
Yeah. We have given out hundreds of copies of this book
Hundreds, yes.
and emailed multiple PDFs of this and sent PDFs to all of the stakeholders at each district um, in the state of New Hampshire. So if you peek around, you might have this purple book, but we're happy to send you the PDF copy now as well to help guide you.
So as we move towards the end of our short introduction today, hopefully that generated some interest in you to dig a little deeper into QIAT and what that looks like. Here's some next steps for you. Well, you could visit our website, nhatconnect.com. On our
Mhm.
front page, you'll see 4 tiles that will say, who are you? I'm an educator, I'm an administrator, a family member, or a student. It will take you to the different pages. Each of the pages has some resources that are specific for that group, but all the pages will take you to these things, including there is a self-paced learning module all about QIAT. So it will go even deeper into the information we just shared with you. I'll come back to that in a second, I promise. This is the home screen of the QIAT course. It lives online. It is completely asynchronous and self-paced. You can do whatever you want in there. You can move through it at whatever pace. Perhaps you do this as an activity with your team.
It is. And we have we were able to pull in the Quiet Leadership Team who helped develop this book to record their little 20, 30-minute webinar. So you're not going to go through this course in a day, like pace it, but they recorded. Um, they're from the horse's mouth, like straight from the folks who developed this. They recorded little mini um, accessible video recordings, and the transcripts are available too, and available in the course on each of these areas, and an explanation from the folks who developed it, with some great activities and resources for your teams. So if you decide to go through this process methodically with a team, this is a great e-learning resource that you can do at your own pace.
And keep returning to over and over again. It is a free resource. Move through it as you need it. Maybe there is an area that you as a team determine is more of a need at this moment.
Absolutely.
There's something to be said for moving through it in the order that is there, but maybe you find you have a pressing need to talk about how AT gets embedded in the IEP. Great, then maybe focus on that part. and get yourself some knowledge and some understanding of that and how to move forward. And then you and your team could do that with both the indicators and the activities in the course. And I promised I would go backwards. We also have created a printable poster that you can get from our website also. And it is a PDF. There it is. There's the picture of it that you can post up around your school. That will give people a quick idea of what we're talking about, the QIAT indicators and why they're so important. And there's QR codes that will take you to the matrices that we showed you, as well as the handbook that we mentioned. So all of that can be yours, posted around wherever you'd like. Make a nice color copy of that and put it up in your school, and you'll be all set.
At least start spreading the word and getting folks interested about it.
Ultimately, we're striving for these two things: quality service, consistent service. That is what we're looking for. That's what will move the needle in your district and ensure that your students' needs are being met well. As much as I want to say having more tech is the answer, I know that's not true. Having more tech is never really the answer. Having good tech is the answer, the right tech. Having a process to support that tech is a better answer.
Having the right tech that's implemented.
The right tech, yeah, right. I always that's the answer all the time, is the right tech. As we wrap up, don't forget you have access to the slides. You can get them through the QR code there or the link that's on the screen. If you're joining us in person, this lives on a website where you found it with all the other recordings. Please scroll through the website. There are bunches of resources there. We've been very fortunate to not only complete and record webinars with Jen and I, but other national presenters on areas related to assistive technology. Tons of knowledge on this page that has all these recordings on it. So please, we hope that you go through it and really check that out to learn some more about all of this.
Well, thanks, folks. I mean, please feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in learning more about QIAT. You have these resources, and you can always reach out to us at nhatconnect@gmail.com.
We'll be there. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye, everyone.